When the DEA began monitoring Mexican drug lord El Chapo's emails and text messages, they were shocked by what they saw. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who grew up as a poor farm boy in Sinaloa, Mexico, had spent decades building up a drug trafficking operation that spanned multiple countries, generated billions of dollars per year, and had directly or indirectly claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people. El Chapo had people in his employ from the very lowliest of street thugs and random farmers to the highest levels of politicians and government agents. You'd think that with such a large operation, the intercepted messages would be dealing with logistical issues and handling the bribes of politicians, but they weren't. His messages, the DEA found, were mostly focused on juggling the competing demands of his wife, his ex-wives, his girlfriends, and his paid consorts. There was no illegal business dealings to be found. This is a man that is ordering hits, bribing politicians, and managing multinational supply chains, and yet he spends all his day dealing with the competing interests of his women. How impressive then, that El Chapo was able to build such an operation while being constantly distracted by the drama that comes not only with just managing these women, but managing all these women who are Latinas specifically. Imagine what he would have been able to accomplish if he had just focused on the task at hand. Maybe he never would have ended up in jail. Except the reason that he had the success that he had was because of the Latinas, not in spite of them. Let me explain. And then I'll explain how you too can execute the Toxic Latina Protocol to see success in all of your endeavors. If the goal that we are working towards is an important one, we tend to get lost in it. We obsess over every detail, trying to make it as good as we can make it. If we find ourselves seeing success, we tend to boil that down to our success. We make it something that we did that makes us great. If we're in a slump, we get ourselves lost in our feelings about that. We take the L's personally. Although the world will look at El Chapo's drug empire as his main contribution, the main thing he did, Wikipedia will say that that's what he's known for. But to El Chapo, the world that he actually inhabited was a world of Latinas who all needed separate things with competing interests and his attempts to manage and balance those. By putting all of his mental and spiritual energy into this world of Latinas, El Chapo was able to take a distant perspective on his enterprise and execute on it without getting too lost in the sauce with it. There's no overthinking on the best route to take. There's no questioning his own decisions. He had important things to do. He had girls to please. By staying out of it and keeping your ego clear of your work, you can just do what needs to be done. You do what the Hindus call dharma, your duty. The Bhagavad Gita states the way to win this great war is to react alike to both pain and pleasure, profit and loss, victory and deceit. Many such examples. This distance from importance is something that comes up again and again. This focusing on a task that is not the real task you're aiming at will allow you to keep going in spite of setbacks and be a professional as opposed to an amateur. Amateurs have their feelings involved. Professionals do what needs to be done. But say you don't have a harem of Latinas that will keep your attention on them and not on your work. What do? There's generally two ways that you can go about this. There's the El Chapo method, where you get lost in a variety of girlfriends and wives. You can focus on taking drugs, which is what Lil Peep did. Or the approach that I'm currently experimenting with is you focus on the spiritual aspect, which is what the Bhagavad Gita was talking about, I believe. In order to not get lost in the sauce, you keep yourself anchored to a higher spiritual power. This is the thing that allowed Habib Nurmagomedov to see astronomical success in his life and not go down in a drug-fueled spiral. His successes that he saw in the arena were all praise be to Allah, and not self-congratulatory for how hard he worked at it. Whatever the spiritual route is, the goal is to find something that will remind you every week, every day, every hour, that it's all praise be to Allah, or whichever entity that you choose. And then whatever your desires and goals are, it all comes secondary to that spiritual connection. Protocol that El Chapo used can work with toxic Latinas, or it can work as a spiritual practice. Whatever path it is that you take though, the goal is to find something that you can put all your energy into that makes it so that the actual main thing is not where you put your energy. Your vocation, although you will work at it diligently, isn't so important to you. You'll need to find something else to anchor yourself to so that you can execute on it and remain humble and even-keeled. Because if your vocation is the most important thing to you, as Teddy Roosevelt said, you'll begin to work for it. You'll be too careful, too calculating, cautious in word and act, and so you will beat yourself.